I'm Samantha Wood. I'm the senior field organizer at the National Alliance to End Homelessness. So I worked in the field for about 14 years as a case manager, doing various jobs, including working at a maximum security prison for women, being a job coach / case manager for refugees who are in the TANF program. I also served adults with severe mental illness, and most recently I was a case manager for a rapid housing program here in Charlottesville, Virginia for about 7 years. So one thing that I was a huge proponent of when I was in the field was shared housing. And so what I would do is I would try to pair my clients together, especially those who were struggling with finding housing. So if I had an older adult client who couldn't afford rent for a one bedroom, which is really expensive, especially if you're on a fixed income, a lot of my older adult clients were on disability, or they were retired and on Social Security, but it still didn't meet enough income in order to be able to function, to live. And so if I had a younger client who also was in that situation where they couldn't afford rent on their own, even after we were paying them, because our program's only 2 years. So they needed to have something that was more sustainable once they're funding it in with us. I would match a younger client with an older client, and then the older client would be able to qualify for our senior housing. And as long as one person in the household was over 55, they could live in a lot of the older adult communities that we have here in town. And so they would apply with my younger client, and then they would live together in that senior living facility. I mean, it wasn't really like a nursing home or anything. It was just like apartment complexes for people who are 55 and over. My younger clients did not mind that because the rent was a lot cheaper than anywhere else. The other shared housing that we have is either subpar, so the conditions aren't that great, or you have a bunch of roommates, you don't know who they are. So it's better just to have one roommate, an older person who, isn't going to throw parties or be, loud, especially if you're trying to maintain sobriety or something like that. So it worked out because the younger client was able to kind of care for the older client if they had any physical issues. And then it helped out the older client because they had a companion, someone to spend time with, someone that they could also go out into the community with. So it worked out because everyone got housed. And then all the issues that you find traditionally going into shared housing were eliminated because you only have one roommate. And then I would always make sure they met a couple times just to make sure they jived with each other, which usually they did. And so I still have clients I see today who I paired. They're still living in the situation they were when I worked with them a couple of years ago, where, they're living in the senior community now. Of course, some of their friends poke fun at them, but they don't mind because it's cheap rent and they're in a safe place. A lot of these apartment complexes have security codes you have to punch in. So it's an extra layer of security as well. So it worked out.